My name's Jake, and for the past 10 years, I was married to Laura. We met in college. She was that typical girl everyone envied. Smart, beautiful, and seemingly perfect. I thought I hit the jackpot. In the first few years, everything was great. We built a life together, bought a house, and had our share of ups and downs, like any couple. But about 3 years ago, things began to change. Laura started pulling away. It was subtle at first. Late nights at the office, forgotten anniversaries, and an increasing amount of time on her phone. I brushed it off, thinking work was just getting intense. But then, the little things piled up. She became secretive, dodging my questions about her day, and there was this constant tension in the house. I tried to be supportive, assuming she was just stressed. Little did I know, the storm was brewing right under my nose. The first real red flag was when I noticed she was more protective of her phone than usual. Passwords changed, messages deleted. I confronted her gently, hoping it was just another phase, but her responses were evasive. That's when I started to realize something was seriously wrong. Looking back, I can see the signs clearly now, but at the time, I was in denial. I thought, maybe she just needs some space. Or, this is temporary. Little did I know, Laura was harboring secrets that would turn my world upside down. So, about 6 months after those initial red flags, I was at work one late evening. Our company had just landed a big client, and the excitement was palpable. My colleague, Mike, he's been a friend since day one, pulled me aside during a hectic meeting. "Jake, have you seen Laura lately?" Mike asked, looking genuinely concerned. I shrugged. "Not really. She's been swamped with those new project leads." Mike hesitated, then leaned in closer. "I think she's been seeing someone else. I heard she's been spending a lot of time with Tom from marketing." Tom? That name rang a bell. Tom was always friendly, but I never thought much of it. "Are you sure?" I asked, trying to keep my cool. Mike nodded. "Saw them leaving a bar together last week. They seemed pretty cozy." My heart sank. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe Mike was overreacting. But doubt gnawed at me all night. That evening, I decided to check Laura's phone, something I'd been hesitant to do, but curiosity got the better of me. Sneaking into the bedroom, I saw her phone on the nightstand. I glanced around to make sure she wasn't around and started scrolling through her messages. That's when I found it, a series of texts between Laura and Tom. Words like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "Last night was incredible," stared back at me. My blood boiled. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and a deep sense of hurt. I confronted her that night, hoping it was a misunderstanding. Laura's reaction was everything I could have expected from someone who thinks they're always right. "You're being paranoid, Jake," she snapped. "Tom and I are just friends. You're overreacting as usual." "Friend? Really? Because it looks a lot more than that," I shot back, trying to keep my voice steady. She rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed. "You have nothing on me. Maybe if you weren't such a controlling husband, I wouldn't need to find happiness elsewhere." Her dismissive attitude hit me hard. I realized this wasn't just about some late nights and forgotten dates. It was a full-blown affair. But that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Unexpectedly, a week later, Laura disappeared. No calls, no messages, nothing. I was left in the dark, trying to piece together what went wrong. Little did I know, this was just the tip of the iceberg. A week after our confrontation, Laura just vanished. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was like she evaporated into thin air. At first, I thought maybe she needed some space or was dealing with personal issues. But days turned into weeks, and there was still no sign of her. My friends were concerned, and Mike, despite the awkwardness between us after his revelation, reached out to offer support. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I hired a private investigator, Lisa, who's been around the block a few times. After a couple of weeks, she came back with some shocking information. Laura had moved to a different state with Tom. They had a new life set up, new jobs, a rented house, everything. It was like she took off without a second thought. Feeling a mix of rage and betrayal, I couldn't let this slide. Laura had always played the victim, twisting every situation to make herself look bad. She'd lied about so many things over the years, from small fibs about where she was going to major deceptions about her finances. It was infuriating to see her finally facing the consequences of her actions. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. A few weeks after finding out about Laura and Tom, our company faced a major setback. A crucial project I was leading tanked due to what seemed like internal sabotage. Deadlines were missed, clients were furious, and the board started questioning my leadership. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was out to get me, and my mind kept drifting back to Laura's betrayal. As the stress piled up, I realized that Laura's departure wasn't just about her personal life, it was also affecting our professional world. Tom, who was already a questionable character, had ties in the industry that were now being leveraged against me. I had to act fast before everything I'd worked for came crashing down. That's when the idea hit me: corporate revenge. I knew it was risky, but seeing Laura manipulate her way into a new life made me think I could do the same on a different scale. I started digging into the company's finances, looking for any leverage I could use. What I found was a goldmine of opportunities to turn the tables. But I wasn't just going to play dirty. I wanted to make sure Laura and Tom paid for their deceit in a way they couldn't ignore. The plan began to form in my mind, a way to use the very tools they used against me to bring them down. It was time to make them beg for mercy, and maybe even for money. After discovering Laura and Tom had relocated, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this was more than just a personal betrayal. It was a strategic move. Tom's connections in the industry were no secret, and I suspected Laura might be leveraging them to undermine me both personally and professionally. That's when the idea of corporate revenge solidified in my mind. I spent countless nights poring over company reports, financial statements, and internal memos. My goal was to find something substantial enough to not only expose Laura and Tom, but also to cripple their newfound lives. It wasn't just about getting back at Laura. It was about reclaiming my power and ensuring they couldn't walk away unscathed. Here's where things got interesting. I discovered that Tom had a hidden side to his persona at work. While outwardly charming and helpful, he was siphoning funds from our projects into personal accounts. This was the leverage I needed. With enough evidence, I could bring him down legally and financially, forcing Laura to confront the fallout of their actions. But I knew I had to be meticulous. One wrong move, and everything could collapse, not just for them, but for me too. I reached out to Lisa, the private investigator, to dig deeper into Tom's financial dealings. Together, we unearthed a trail of deceit that was more extensive than I initially thought. Tom wasn't just skimming off the top. He had been orchestrating a web of fraud that implicated several high-ranking officials in our company. Armed with this information, I started to formulate my strategy. I decided to gather concrete evidence and present it to the board discreetly. Timing was crucial. I needed to ensure that when the truth came out, it would be undeniable and irreversible. Meanwhile, I began to document Laura's manipulative behavior, her lies, her deceit, and how she had used our marriage to her advantage. But life isn't predictable, right? Just as I was getting everything in order, an unexpected twist threw a wrench into my plans. During a routine meeting, I overheard a conversation between two board members discussing a potential merger with a competitor. This merger could either save our sinking projects or lead to a complete takeover by external forces. The timing couldn't have been worse. Now, not only was I dealing with internal sabotage, but there was also the looming threat of a hostile takeover. It felt like the universe was conspiring against me, pushing me to the brink. I had to act swiftly before both my personal and professional lives crumbled. That's when I decided to double down on my revenge. If I could expose Tom's fraud and prevent the merger, it would not only secure my position, but also ensure that Laura and Tom couldn't escape their misdeeds. It was a risky move, but I felt I had no other choice. After finalizing my plan to expose Tom's fraud and halt the merger, I knew timing was everything. I couldn't afford any slip-ups. I met with Lisa again to review the evidence we had gathered. Her findings were damning. Tom's embezzlement was tied to several shell companies, and we had enough to not only bring him down, but also to implicate a few higher-ups who were in on it. My next step was to discreetly present the evidence to the board. I requested a private meeting, emphasizing the urgency without revealing too much. The day of the meeting, my heart was pounding. I walked into the boardroom, documents in hand, trying to maintain my composure. As I began laying out the facts, detailing Tom's illicit activities, and the potential damage to the company's reputation, I noticed murmurs and shifting eyes. Some board members looked shocked, others skeptical. Just when I thought I had their full attention, an unexpected twist occurred. Laura walked into the room. I froze. Laura? Here? She must have tracked me down, sensing my move against her and Tom. Her presence was like adding gasoline to a fire. She smirked, leaning against the doorway. Well, well, Jake. Didn't expect to see me here. The room went silent. My mind raced. How had she found out? Was she here to support Tom, or was there something else at play? Laura had always been the queen of manipulation, twisting situations to her advantage. I couldn't let her ruin this moment. Ignoring her, I continued with my presentation. As I was saying, the evidence against Tom is substantial. If we don't act now, not only will his actions go unchecked, but it could also lead to a hostile takeover, jeopardizing our entire project. Laura interjected, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, Jake, always the hero. Trying to save the company from imaginary threats, perhaps? Her mockery was infuriating. I pressed on, determined not to let her derail me. Laura, this isn't about personal issues. It's about protecting what we built here. She laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the room. Protecting? Or maybe protecting your own interests. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, things wouldn't have gone south. Her words stung, but I refused to back down. The board members watched, torn between the confrontation and the evidence I was presenting. Just then, an unexpected phone call interrupted us. It was Mike. Jake, you need to see this, he said urgently. There's something you need to know about Laura. I excused myself, stepping out of the room to take the call. Mike informed me that he had dug deeper into Laura's recent activities and discovered that she had been siphoning funds from her own personal accounts, not just Tom's. She had been living beyond her means, supporting a lavish lifestyle that didn't align with her supposed financial status. Armed with this new information, I returned to the boardroom. I quickly added, additionally, we've uncovered irregularities in Laura's financial dealings that suggest misuse of company resources for personal gain. Laura's facade cracked. She tried to deny it, but the evidence was irrefutable. The board turned their attention back to me, now fully invested in the fallout of her actions. Tom and Laura looked stunned, their alliance unraveling before our eyes. But just when I thought I had the upper hand, another unexpected event occurred. The competitor we were considering for the merger pulled out at the last minute, citing internal issues. It seemed like everything was spiraling out of control. Tom's fraud exposed, Laura's deceit unveiled, and now the merger falling apart. I felt a mix of triumph and exhaustion. My corporate revenge was taking shape, but the chaos it caused was beyond anything I had anticipated. Laura, who had once been the puppet master, was now begging for mercy, her lies exposed for everyone to see. After the board meeting where I exposed Tom and Laura, I felt a temporary sense of victory. But as it turns out, victory was just the beginning of a new set of problems. Laura, who had always prided herself on her manipulative skills, wasn't about to let things go that easily. A few days after the meeting, I received an unexpected visit from Laura. She showed up at my office unannounced, looking more desperate than ever. Her usual confidence was replaced with a vulnerability I hadn't seen before. Jake, please, she begged, her eyes welling up with tears. I need your help. I'm in financial trouble. I was taken aback. After everything, she was now the one on her knees. My initial reaction was a mix of anger and disbelief. After all the lies and deceit, you come to me for help? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. Laura quickly shifted gears, trying to play the victim. I didn't have any other options. Tom left me, and I need the money to cover my debts. Please, Jake, you're the only one I can turn to. I wanted to call her out on her manipulative tactics, but a part of me couldn't help feeling a pang of sympathy. However, I knew better than to fall for her lies again. "Fine," I said cautiously, "but you need to provide full transparency about your financial situation." She nodded eagerly, pulling out a stack of documents she claimed would prove her predicament. As I sifted through them, I couldn't help but notice inconsistencies and half-truths. It was clear she was still lying, trying to extract as much as possible from me. Determined not to let her take advantage, I decided to use this to my advantage. If she wanted money, I'd make sure she paid for every penny. I offered her a loan, but with strict terms and a high interest rate. She reluctantly agreed, signing the paperwork without fully understanding the extent of her obligation. But Laura wasn't done yet. Just when I thought I had her cornered, another unexpected twist hit me. I received a call from our mutual friend, Sarah, who had always been the voice of reason in our circle. She sounded frantic. "Jake, have you heard about Laura? There's something seriously wrong." Concerned, I met up with Sarah to hear what was going on. She revealed that Laura had been seen at a seedy motel downtown, involved in some shady transactions. It was clear Laura was spiraling, and her actions were starting to affect not just her, but everyone around her. This was the breaking point for me. I realized that Laura's manipulation and deceit were far from over. She was desperate, and desperation can lead to even more unpredictable behavior. I knew I had to take further steps to protect myself and ensure she couldn't continue to wreak havoc on my life. In the days that followed, I tightened my grip on the situation. I monitored her financial activities closely, ensuring she couldn't siphon more money from me. I also started documenting every interaction, building a case against her for potential legal action. Laura's once unshakable facade was beginning to crumble, and I was determined to see it through. But just when I thought I had everything under control, another curveball came my way. Tom reached out to me, trying to smooth things over. He admitted that he had made mistakes, but insisted that he and Laura were working things out. I saw through his facade immediately. This was just another attempt to manipulate the situation to his advantage. Refusing to be pulled back into their web of lies, I cut off all communication with Tom. It was clear that both of them were too caught up in their deceit to salvage anything genuine. I had to focus on my own healing and ensure that Laura faced the consequences of her actions. Emotionally, this period was a whirlwind. One moment, I felt triumphant for standing up to Laura and Tom, and the next, overwhelmed by the chaos they continued to create. The stress took a toll on my health, but I knew I had to stay strong. I started seeing a therapist to help navigate the emotional turmoil and regain a sense of stability. As the dust began to settle, I couldn't help but reflect on how far things had gone. Laura, once the perfect wife, had become the architect of my downfall. Her lies and manipulations had not only destroyed our marriage, but also threatened my career and peace of mind. But I was determined to rise above it all, no matter how messy the journey became. After the whirlwind of exposing Laura and Tom, the aftermath was both exhausting and enlightening. My days were filled with legal consultations, meetings with financial advisors, and endless therapy sessions. I was determined to reclaim not just my professional standing, but also my personal peace. First things first, I had to focus on salvaging my career. The exposure of Tom's fraud had left a bad taste in the company, and there was an atmosphere of distrust lingering in the air. I knew I couldn't just sit back and wait for things to get better. I had to take proactive steps. I started by reaching out to the remaining trustworthy members of the board. It was surprising to see how many of them were genuinely supportive and eager to help mend the damage caused by the recent scandals. Together, we worked on implementing stricter financial controls and transparency measures to prevent future fraud. Slowly but surely, the company began to stabilize. But here's where an unexpected alliance formed. During one of these meetings, I met Emily, the head of HR. She was sharp, no-nonsense, and surprisingly empathetic. Emily had been quietly observing the situation and offered her support. We bonded over our shared frustration with the company's internal issues and our mutual desire to see it thrive again. Outside of work, I started to reconnect with old friends and make new ones. It was refreshing to surround myself with people who genuinely cared about my well-being, not just as a colleague but as a person. Sarah, our mutual friend, became a constant source of support. Her perspective was invaluable, helping me navigate the murky waters of trust and betrayal. One evening, Sarah introduced me to Dave, a tech entrepreneur who had recently launched his own startup. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared experiences of overcoming personal and professional setbacks. Dave's optimism was contagious, and he encouraged me to think about new opportunities rather than dwelling on the past. Inspired by Dave's entrepreneurial spirit, I began to explore new ventures. With the financial stability I had worked hard to regain, I felt confident enough to consider taking a leap of faith. Emily, ever the supportive ally, offered to help me draft a business plan for a consultancy firm focused on corporate ethics and fraud prevention. It was a niche market, but given my recent experiences, it felt like the right direction. As we brainstormed ideas, another unexpected twist came my way. Tom, ever the opportunist, reached out to me out of the blue. He claimed he wanted to make amends and offered to collaborate on a project. My gut immediately screamed to shut him out, but curiosity got the better of me. We met for coffee, and as expected, Tom tried to sugarcoat his past actions, presenting himself as a reformed man seeking redemption. I wasn't buying it. Instead of engaging further, I used the meeting as leverage. I hinted that I knew about his ongoing schemes and that any collaboration would require full transparency and accountability. Tom left, clearly annoyed, and I knew this was just the beginning of another round of his manipulations. Amidst all this, my therapy sessions became a cornerstone of my healing process. Discussing my feelings of betrayal, anger, and confusion helped me gain clarity. I realized that holding on to the rage wasn't serving me. Instead, it was eating away at my peace of mind. Letting go was easier said than done, but with time and support, I began to find a sense of inner calm. I also started taking better care of myself, physically and mentally. Regular workouts, meditation, and even picking up a new hobby like painting provided a much-needed outlet for my emotions. It was during one of these painting sessions that I had an epiphany. I didn't want my life to revolve around Laura and Tom anymore. It was time to focus on my own happiness and aspirations. Just when I thought I was making real progress, another unexpected event shook things up. Emily informed me that there was a sudden opportunity to present our new consultancy idea at a major industry conference. It was a huge platform that could catapult our venture to success, but it also meant stepping out of my comfort zone and facing the spotlight once again. Nervous but determined, I decided to go for it. The preparation was intense, but having Emily and Dave by my side made all the difference. On the day of the conference, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. As I stood before the audience, sharing my vision for a more ethical corporate world, I couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. It was a pivotal moment, marking the beginning of a new chapter in my life. After the successful presentation at the industry conference, Emily and I were buzzing with excitement. Our consultancy firm, Integrity First Consulting, was officially in motion. The idea was simple yet ambitious: help corporations instill ethical practices and prevent fraud, drawing directly from the chaos Laura and Tom had wreaked on my life. Launching a new business is never easy, and ours was no exception. The first hurdle came sooner than expected. Just a week after our conference presentation, we received a cease and desist letter from a rival firm, Silverstone Solutions, claiming we were infringing on their trademark. Panic set in. This was our chance to make a name for ourselves, but legal battles could drain our limited resources. Emily, ever the strategist, suggested we negotiate rather than fight. We scheduled a meeting with Silverstone's legal team, hoping to reach a settlement. To our surprise, the meeting took an unexpected turn when their CEO, Mark, admitted that he was aware of our plans and actually admired our mission. Instead of pursuing the lawsuit, Mark offered to collaborate, providing us with resources and clientele in exchange for a share in our profits. Relieved yet cautious, we accepted the offer, recognizing the opportunity to accelerate our growth. This unexpected alliance not only saved us from a costly legal battle, but also opened doors we hadn't even considered. Just as we were finding our footing, Tom reappeared in the picture. He contacted me out of the blue, claiming he wanted to make amends and offer his expertise to our consultancy. My instincts screamed to shut him out, but something about his approach was different. Maybe it was the sincerity, or perhaps it was another layer of manipulation. After a tense phone call, I decided to meet him for coffee. Tom presented himself as a reformed man, eager to contribute positively. Skeptical but intrigued, I agreed to give him a chance, setting strict boundaries and overseeing his involvement closely. Meanwhile, Laura wasn't done with her games. She started showing up unexpectedly at my office, pretending to be interested in our services. Her presence was a constant reminder of the chaos she had unleashed. One day, she approached me with a seemingly genuine request for help in restructuring her finances. Her tone was different, softer, almost pleading. I saw through her facade immediately. Laura was trying to manipulate her way back into my life, using the consultancy as a facade for her deceit. Instead of denying her outright, I decided to use this to gather more evidence against her. I documented every interaction, every inconsistency in her stories, building a case that I could use later. Amidst all this turmoil, another unexpected twist came my way. Emily introduced me to Ryan, a former FBI agent specializing in white-collar crimes. Ryan had recently left the bureau to pursue private consulting and was looking for meaningful projects. His expertise was exactly what we needed to bolster our credibility and effectiveness. With Ryan on board, our consultancy gained a significant edge. His insights and connections provided us with the tools to tackle even the most intricate cases of corporate fraud. Together, we began to attract high-profile clients, and our reputation started to soar. Balancing the demands of the new business with the emotional scars left by Laura and Tom was exhausting. I found myself constantly on edge, my nights filled with restless sleep and my days consumed by work. Therapy sessions became more frequent, helping me navigate the lingering feelings of betrayal and anger. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, I sat down with Emily to vent my frustrations. She listened patiently, offering words of encouragement and reminding me of how far we'd come. It was moments like these that reinforced the importance of having a solid support system. Just when things seemed to be stabilizing, another unexpected event threw a wrench into our plans. During a routine audit of one of our major clients, we uncovered a massive embezzlement scheme orchestrated by the CFO, Karen. This wasn't just a small-scale fraud. It was a sophisticated operation that had been siphoning funds for years. The case was a double-edged sword. On one hand, solving it would cement our reputation as top-tier consultants. On the other, it meant diving into a dangerous world where powerful individuals were at stake. Ryan and I debated the risks, but ultimately, we decided to take on the challenge. It was an opportunity to prove ourselves and make a real difference. As we delved deeper into Karen's network, we realized the extent of her influence. She had connections that reached into high levels of government and industry, making our mission even more perilous. Threats began to surface, anonymous calls, veiled warnings, and even subtle acts of intimidation aimed at dissuading us from pursuing the case. Despite the mounting pressure, we pressed on, driven by our commitment to integrity and justice. The more we uncovered, the more determined we became to expose the truth, no matter the cost. Ryan and I were deep into the Karen case. Karen Thompson, the CFO of Global Tech Industries, had been siphoning funds for years, orchestrating a sophisticated embezzlement scheme that left the company hemorrhaging money. Her connections ran deep. She had allies in high places, making our investigation both thrilling and terrifying. One evening, as we were reviewing documents in our office, Ryan looked up from his laptop with a serious expression. "Jake, I think we're getting closer, but this is bigger than we thought. Karen isn't just embezzling funds. She's laundering money through offshore accounts. This could bring down some major figures in the industry." I felt a chill run down my spine. The stakes were higher than I had anticipated. "So what's our next move?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Ryan leaned back, his eyes scanning the room as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. "We need concrete evidence. Bank statements, transaction records, anything that ties her directly to the illicit activities. And we need to be cautious. Karen's network isn't going to let this slide without a fight." Just as we were making progress, the unexpected happened. One night, I received an anonymous call. The voice on the other end was distorted, but the message was clear. "Stop digging, or there will be consequences." My heart raced. Threats like this weren't new in corporate battles, but they were always unsettling. I shared the call with Ryan and Emily, and we decided to ramp up our security measures. We installed surveillance cameras, hired additional security personnel, and even considered hiring a personal bodyguard. But despite our precautions, another threat emerged. While driving home one evening, my car was followed by an unmarked SUV. My heart pounded as I glanced in the rearview mirror, seeing the SUV mirroring my every move. I took a detour through a busy part of town, hoping to lose the tail, but the SUV persisted until I reached a crowded parking garage. I rushed inside, only to find my car missing. Panic set in. Had someone stolen it? Or worse, was there something sinister at play? I immediately called Emily and Ryan, and we alerted the authorities. Fortunately, after an hour of searching, the SUV disappeared without a trace, but the message was loud and clear. We were being watched. Amidst all this chaos, Laura and Tom weren't stepping back. I couldn't help but feel that they were somehow still connected to the turmoil. Their betrayal had left me wary of everyone, and I began to suspect that their paths might cross with mine in unexpected ways. One afternoon, as I was meeting with Ryan to discuss our next steps, the door to our office swung open. There stood Laura, looking disheveled and desperate. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding direct contact. "Jake, I need to talk," she pleaded, her voice shaky. I felt a surge of anger and hurt. "What do you want, Laura?" I asked, my patience wearing thin. She took a hesitant step forward. "I know you're busy, but I've realized my mistakes. I need your help to get out of this mess." Before I could respond, Tom walked in behind her, a smug smile on his face. "Looks like you're in need of assistance, Jake. Maybe we can help each other." I clenched my fists, fighting to keep my composure. "Laura, Tom, what are you doing here? This isn't the time or place." Laura looked around, her facade slipping. "Please, Jake. I'm not here to fight. I just want to make things right." Tom chuckled, leaning casually against the desk. "We both know that's not possible. But maybe we can find a way to benefit from your little crusade against Karen." Their presence was unsettling. I had no idea what they wanted, but I knew better than to trust them. "I have no interest in collaborating with you two. My focus is on bringing Karen down and rebuilding my life." Laura's eyes welled up with tears. "I understand why you're angry, but please let me help you. I have resources that could be useful." Ryan interjected, sensing the tension. "Jake, maybe it's best to let them go. They're not part of our mission." I nodded, deciding to cut the confrontation short. "Laura, Tom, I've got nothing to say to you right now. Please leave." As they exited the office, I couldn't shake the feeling that their intrusion was more than just a coincidence. It was a reminder that the past wasn't done haunting me yet. Determined to stay focused, Ryan and I doubled down on our investigation. We traced the money laundering to a network of shell companies, each one a piece of the puzzle leading back to Karen's inner circle. Every step forward seemed to unravel a deeper conspiracy, but it also made us more visible targets. One night, as we were piecing together the final connections, our office was broken into. Thankfully, we had the security measures in place, and no valuable information was taken. However, the message was clear: we were getting too close to the truth. Instead of backing down, this only fueled our determination. We knew we were up against powerful forces, but Integrity First Consulting was built on the foundation of fighting deceit and corruption. We couldn't let fear dictate our actions. Amidst the chaos, an unexpected revelation came to light. During a late-night review of the financial records, Ryan discovered a direct link between Karen and Mark from Silverstone Solutions, the same Mark who had offered to collaborate with us earlier. It seemed that Mark was not just a supportive ally, but was also entangled in Karen's schemes. Confronting Mark was inevitable. We arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a quiet cafe away from the prying eyes of the office. As we sat down, Mark looked visibly uneasy. "Jake, Ryan, what's this about?" Ryan didn't mince words. We know about your involvement with Karen. You're not just a benign ally, you're part of the problem. Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, I wanted to help you guys out, but things got complicated. Karen promised me a cut of the profits from her schemes in exchange for my support. I felt a surge of betrayal. So you were in on it all along? You used us to further your own gains? Mark nodded reluctantly. I didn't see another way. Karen had leverage over me. If I didn't cooperate, she'd ruin my career. Before I could respond, our conversation was interrupted by the sound of sirens outside. The police had arrived, tipped off by our earlier threats. Mark panicked, pulling out his phone to make a call. This is bad, Jake. Really bad. You don't know what you're getting into. As the police escorted him out, I realized the extent of the web we were tangled in. Karen's network wasn't just limited to her. It extended into places I never imagined, making our mission even more perilous. Ryan and I were knee-deep in the Karen Thompson case. Every lead we followed seemed to unravel a more intricate web of deceit. Karen wasn't just a lone wolf. She was the linchpin in a vast network of corruption that spanned multiple industries. The more we uncovered, the more it became clear that taking her down would require everything we had. One late night, while sifting through a mountain of financial records, Ryan made a startling discovery. Jake, check this out, he said, pointing to a series of transactions that linked Karen to a high-profile politician, Senator Rebecca Harris. This was the kind of connection that could bring down careers and even lead to criminal charges. As we delved deeper, an unexpected ally emerged. Marcus, a former whistleblower from within global tech industries, reached out to us. Marcus had first-hand knowledge of Karen's operations and was willing to testify against her. His insider information was invaluable, but it came with its own set of risks. Marcus was being hunted by Karen's associates, and his safety was paramount. We arranged a secure meeting at a secluded location, a deserted warehouse on the outskirts of town. Marcus arrived, looking visibly shaken but resolute. I've seen the worst of what Karen's capable of, he began, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. She's not just embezzling funds, she's manipulating markets, rigging contracts, and even influencing political decisions to benefit her schemes. Our progress didn't go unnoticed. The threats escalated from anonymous calls to more direct attempts to intimidate us. One evening, as Ryan and I were leaving the office, a black van screeched to a halt beside our car. Two men emerged, demanding that we cease our investigation. I could feel my pulse racing, but I stood my ground. We're not backing down, I declared, meeting their menacing stares. The men left without further incident, but the message was clear: we were in deep trouble. We knew we had to be smarter and more cautious than ever. Emily suggested increasing our security measures, and we decided to hire a private security firm to protect our team and our work. Meanwhile, Laura and Tom weren't staying idle. Their continued interference was becoming more brazen. Laura started attempting to undermine integrity, first consulting by spreading false rumors about our credibility and the legitimacy of our cases. She leveraged her remaining contacts to create doubt and distrust among our potential clients. Tom, on the other hand, used his industry connections to siphon away some of our key clients, redirecting business to his own ventures. It felt like they were hell-bent on destroying everything I had built, turning our personal vendetta into a full-scale professional war. One afternoon, I received a call from Tom, who had somehow managed to bypass our security measures. Jake, we need to talk, he said smoothly. My blood boiled. What do you want, Tom? He didn't waste time. You're making waves, Jake. Maybe it's time we found a way to work together instead of against each other. Think about the power we could wield. I could almost hear the sarcasm in his voice. Save it, Tom. I'm done trying to reason with you and Laura. This ends now. The relentless pressure began to take its toll. Sleepless nights, constant threats, and the betrayal from Laura and Tom weighed heavily on me. I found myself questioning whether the path of revenge and justice was worth the personal cost. The lines between right and wrong blurred as I grappled with the moral implications of my actions. During a particularly intense therapy session, I opened up about my struggles. I wanted to make Laura and Tom pay for what they did, but now I'm not sure if I'm any better than them, I confessed, feeling vulnerable for the first time in months. My therapist listened patiently. Jake, seeking justice is noble, but revenge can consume you. It's important to find a balance and ensure that your actions align with your values. Her words resonated deeply. I realized that while exposing Karen and rebuilding my life was crucial, I couldn't let the cycle of deceit and manipulation define me. I needed to find a way to navigate this without losing myself in the process. Despite my internal conflicts, the investigation pressed on. Marcus provided us with a crucial piece of evidence: encrypted emails that linked Karen directly to Senator Harris. Decoding them required the expertise of a cyber specialist, so Emily reached out to her contacts and secured the help we needed. As we pieced together the final segments of Karen's operation, we knew we were on the brink of something monumental. The evidence was irrefutable, but we also understood that unveiling it would ignite a firestorm of repercussions. The day came when we had to present our findings to the authorities. It was a high-stakes meeting with top federal agents and legal experts. As we laid out the comprehensive evidence, the room buzzed with tension and anticipation. Just as we were about to conclude, the doors burst open. Laura and Tom walked in, flanked by a group of menacing-looking individuals. "Thought you could keep secrets from us, huh?" Laura sneered, her eyes filled with malice. Before I could react, the room erupted into chaos. Shouts, accusations, and the sudden appearance of armed guards created pandemonium. It was clear that Laura and Tom had orchestrated this confrontation, using their influence to sabotage our efforts. In the ensuing turmoil, Ryan and Emily sprang into action. They swiftly secured the room, ensuring that the evidence and our safety were prioritized. Amidst the confusion, Marcus took a stand, using his testimony to expose Karen's deeper connections and countering Laura and Tom's interference. We managed to regain control, but not without scars. The confrontation solidified our resolve, but also highlighted the dangers we were up against. It was a stark reminder that our fight was far from over, and that the lines between allies and enemies were increasingly blurred. After the chaotic confrontation with Laura and Tom at the authorities' meeting, Ryan, Emily, Marcus, and I knew we had to regroup and strategize. The evidence we had against Karen was solid, but with Laura and Tom still lurking in the shadows, we couldn't afford any more surprises. Marcus became our primary source for insider information. His first-hand knowledge of Karen's operations was invaluable, and his willingness to testify made our case airtight. However, his safety was still a concern. We decided to keep him under tight protection, ensuring he wasn't exposed to unnecessary risks. Emily took charge of expanding our network. She reached out to former colleagues and industry contacts, building a coalition of allies who believed in our mission. Among them was Nina, a seasoned attorney specializing in white-collar crimes, who offered to represent us pro bono. Her expertise was exactly what we needed to navigate the legal complexities ahead. With our strengthened team, we dove back into the investigation with renewed vigor. Ryan and I focused on tracing the money trails, while Marcus provided detailed accounts of Karen's manipulations. Nina began preparing the legal framework to present our case, ensuring every piece of evidence was meticulously documented. One evening, as we were piecing together the last segments of Karen's network, an unexpected breakthrough occurred. Ryan uncovered a series of encrypted emails between Karen and Senator Rebecca Harris, emails that detailed plans to manipulate market trends for personal gain. This was the smoking gun we needed to implicate not just Karen, but also high-ranking political figures. Just when we thought we were on the brink of victory, Laura and Tom decided to escalate their game. Laura started a smear campaign against Integrity First Consulting, spreading false rumors about our credibility and the legitimacy of our cases. She used every contact she had to create doubt and mistrust among our potential clients, threatening to ruin our reputation from the outside. Tom, ever the opportunist, took things a step further. He began siphoning away some of our key clients, redirecting business to his own ventures. It felt like he was hell-bent on destroying everything I had built, turning our personal vendetta into a full-scale professional war. One afternoon, I received a call from Tom, who had somehow bypassed our security measures. "Jake, we need to talk," he said smoothly. My blood boiled. "What do you want, Tom?" He didn't waste time. "You're making waves, Jake. Maybe it's time we found a way to work together instead of against each other. Think about the power we could wield." I could almost hear the sarcasm in his voice. "Save it, Tom. I'm done trying to reason with you and Laura. This ends now." With the evidence stacked against Karen and the added pressure from Laura and Tom, the final confrontation was inevitable. We scheduled a high-stakes meeting with federal agents and legal experts to present our findings and push for Karen's indictment. The day of the meeting arrived, and the tension was palpable. As we laid out our comprehensive case, the room was filled with a mix of anticipation and skepticism. Just as we were about to conclude, the doors burst open once again. Laura and Tom walked in, flanked by a group of menacing-looking individuals. "Thought you could keep secrets from us, huh?" Laura sneered, her eyes filled with malice. Before I could react, the room erupted into chaos. Shouts, accusations, and the sudden appearance of armed guards created pandemonium. It was clear that Laura and Tom had orchestrated this confrontation, using their influence to sabotage our efforts. In the ensuing turmoil, Ryan and Emily sprang into action. They swiftly secured the room, ensuring that the evidence and our safety were prioritized. Amidst the confusion, Marcus took a stand, using his testimony to expose Karen's deeper connections and countering Laura and Tom's interference. We managed to regain control, but not without scars. The confrontation solidified our resolve, but also highlighted the dangers we were up against. It was a stark reminder that our fight was far from over, and that the lines between allies and enemies were increasingly blurred. As the dust settled, an unexpected revelation came to light. During the chaos, one of Karen's closest associates, Ethan, approached us discreetly. He had been watching from the sidelines and decided it was time to come clean. Ethan provided us with crucial information about the extent of Karen's network, including evidence of her plans to expand her embezzlement scheme nationwide. With Ethan's help, we were able to trace the final connections, leading us directly to the heart of Karen's operation. It was a breakthrough that promised to bring down the entire network, but it also meant diving deeper into a world of corruption that was both vast and perilous. With our team stronger than ever, we were ready to take down Karen's empire once and for all. The evidence we had amassed was overwhelming, but the real challenge was ensuring that it led to actionable consequences. Nina, our brilliant attorney, coordinated with federal agents to set up a sting operation that would catch Karen and her associates red-handed.